Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming out on such a cold day to attend the February 18th, 2025 meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee. We'll call the meeting to order. And Stephen, can you begin with roll call, please?
Ben Arith. Dan Shriak.
Here.
Deidre Hughes.
Here.
Gabe Shell.
Here.
John Zaki.
Here.
Andrew Strami.
Here.
Jarek Wignes.
Here.
Greg Fazer.
Here.
Mitch Flanagan. Natalie Pierce. Dean Schloss. Will Hutchings.
Here.
Chair Ripple.
Here. Thank you. We'll begin the meeting with a review of the minutes from the January 21st meeting. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, would there be a motion to approve the minutes?
Chair Ripple, I move to approve.
Andrew, thank you. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
This is Jarek. I'll second.
Thanks, Jarek. Roll call, please.
Dan Shriak.
Yes.
Deidre Hughes.
Yes.
Gabe Shell.
Yes.
John Zaki.
Yes.
Andrew Strami.
Yes.
Jarek Wignes.
Yes.
Greg Fazer.
Yes.
Will Hutchings.
Yes.
Chair Ripple.
Yes. Minutes are approved. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is the 2025 Safety Policy Study. I believe that we have Luke Champa with SRF online to provide us an update on that. Luke, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Chair Ripple, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Sound good.
All right, great. I will just dive into some bullet points here. We have, first of all, project management task. We're holding biweekly meetings with Chair Ripple and Bismarck-Mandan MPO to discuss progress on this plan. We prepared for our first steering committee meeting, our kickoff meeting, which we held January 27th. Thank you all for attending. That was well attended. And I had almost 24 cookies left afterwards. So next time I will just get a dozen. We are working through the data request. We've received a lot of good data so far. I think the only holes that I'm noticing off the top here are specifically Morton County, Mandan, some data there. So I'll encourage those jurisdictions to just take a peek at that memo and send what you can, if you don't mind. We also have requested crash data, which we have received in a 5-year crash summary format. We are requesting NDDOT to send the text files with the crash master, occupant, unit, pedestrian. There's, I think, 5 different sort of text tables that we have used in the past. So I'm still trying to track that down. Otherwise, we are getting very close to being able to jump into our crash analysis and summary, which will be an interesting component of this plan. We did settle on a plan brand logo that includes a transit vehicle, a bus, and is pretty colorful. So so far so good. We're about 5% through the budget. So we're marching on schedule, still with the plan to wrap things up by the end of the year.
All right, that sounds good. Anybody have any questions for Luke on the safety policy study? If not, we will move right along to item number 3, which is the 2025 ITSRA update. As you might recall, this board did see the addendum to the master agreement that the MPO has with Advanced Traffic Analysis Center and NDSU for our modeling. This particular addendum was for an update to the Intelligent Transportation System regional architecture for the Bismarck-Mandan MPO. TAC recommended approval of that last month, and Policy Board in turn approved the addendum. So we're ready to begin on that. I'm here to introduce Dr. Sherijad Hassan with NDSU ATAC, and he will be performing the update to our ITS. He's here today to tell us a little bit about what the ITS regional architecture is, why it's important to us, and what we can expect through this update. Thanks for being with us this morning, Sherijad. Are you online with us?
Thanks, Terry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll try to share my screen and hopefully I'll be succeeding on that. Can you see my screen now?
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much again, everyone. Yes, it's a very cold morning, and I'm going to discuss a little bit of technical items to this committee because this is one of the places where I can actually talk about these. So the regional ITS architecture plan update. Let me get into the ITS architecture first. So the intelligent transportation system, that's altogether is the ITS, which applies to a variety of technologies that your region already have or maybe planning to have it. And you have those technologies to monitor or maybe to evaluate, manage your transportation system so that your road users can move efficiently and safely. Now, to ensure these movement, you need proper connectivity among those technologies that is owned by different stakeholders in your region. To keep a tab on the connectivity information, we maintain these ITS architecture, which I'll be calling as RA from here on, which is this RA is actually a blueprint that will show us what different ITS components we have, in our region, how they're connected, and how information flows from one component to another. So whether you have an existing technology or are planning to introduce a new technology to serve your users, it is important that you have an idea of what is already out there and what else is needed in which form. Therefore, the regional architecture, it gives you a clear picture by defining the existing and the planned service, from where those services are being originated, what are the components that is needed to provide those services. It also provides the concept of how these components are connected, what are the communication standards that is going all over the country for these kind of connections, and many more other factors. And not only these, the regional architecture is a regional framework or a roadmap for ensuring institutional agreements and technical integration between your systems. Although this regional ITS architecture itself is technology independent, it must be kept up to date as the technology evolves and the regional priorities change over time. And as a living document, our RA keeps getting those updates in two specific forms. So for the first ones, we look into the requirements of the region through the scope of changed regional needs and services, as well as identifying new stakeholders. And that is why we propose this regional architecture update in every 3 to 5 years. And for the second update, we are expecting to learn from the stakeholders. We are expecting to learn about the projects that has happened during since the last update. So some project update we will get to know from the stakeholders during the meetings. But there are some projects that come to my table as a part of the system engineering requirement check, which is also a part of the federal funding request. So, for example, I worked with KLJ when they are connecting the fiber optic cable along the roadway network between 7th and 9th Streets in Bismarck. And that work happened right after our last architecture update completed. So for each of those identified projects, we will connect those project details with our existing architecture. Other than these, the primary guideline for this architecture comes from the architecture reference for cooperative and in intelligent transportation, or in short, it's called ARKIT, which is a US DOT authorized platform for upholding the array. Currently, they are running on version 9.3, and our existing regional architecture was at 8.2, which I updated up to 9 within the timeline that we have since the last update initiative. And now we will definitely make the update up to 9.3, or maybe by, let's say, by September, they come up with a new version of 9.4, or maybe 10.1. We will be able to update that with the new version. Now here is the existing architectures or existing regional physical architecture. So this current physical architecture for the MPO that was last updated based on the stakeholders' input in 2021. So on the lower left side, if you see that you can see the centers, and on the upper left side there are the support centers, which actually tells us from which areas we should collect the primary input. And to make this data collection, since we want to make it an organized effort, the national architecture uses the idea of service packages. Now, service packages, they identifies each service that you are providing or provided to the road users and its different components within the service package. And these will be the first requirement for our update procedure. Now, based on those centers and the support centers, the Bismarck-Mandan has service packages in 5 different areas on your screen, which is the public transport, the traffic management, emergency management, maintenance and construction, and finally the data management area. So we will collect information from each of those areas based on what services are provided on specific areas. Here I have provided an really small overview of what is currently on the Bismarck-Mandan array. So it was prepared in 2005, and since then we have been through three updates. This will be the version 5 of your regional architecture. In the last architecture, we have identified 24 stakeholders, and as part of the update process, we will reach out to all those stakeholders and some more in this update initiative. We have identified 31 service packages last time, and out of those 31, we had 22 on the existing status. 3 was in the planned status. 6 of them were in the future status, which was a new addition on that year. So when we will be collecting information from the stakeholders, we will be talking about those 6 future and the 3 planned status on their current status, whether they have been moved into existing, or if there is any progress or maybe there is some changes that is being discussed. Here, if you want, you can go to the website and look into the current structure or current architecture on the link that is provided on this screen, and it's also in your meeting packet. Other than that, we also need to collect some more information, which comes in terms of scope. So the geographical region, the agencies, the new stakeholders that will identify, the roles and responsibilities of those stakeholders, if there is any agreements that are required to perform the services, what kind of to make those system functional, what are the requirements that stakeholders want to identify, and also how the information flow moves between those different components. and finally the standard that that is acceptable according to the national architecture. So this is the array update task. So as part of it, we want to complete our data collection by May 2025. And we have started reaching out to our stakeholders for a kickoff meeting. We are collecting some dates when they will be available and based on that, we'll set up our meeting probably within the next couple of weeks. And from there, we will put all the stakeholders in different small groups based on the service areas where they will be performing. And once we collect those information, we will coordinate those the changes with the stakeholders in form of regular updates. By August 2025, we will identify the primary RA changes and which especially comes in terms of the inventory or the components that is out there. And based on those changes, I will come in front of the TAC as well as the policy board to discuss those progress. After that, by September, we are planning to connect the improvement or the update with the we want to coordinate it with the MPO planning goals. That is something we always do. We did for the last one, and this year will not be different. And also, we will update the architecture with the national standards. So, and I am hoping to complete this whole process, at least the draft one, by October 2025. So we will be having a Reddit database. So Reddit is the tool that we use as per the suggestion of the national architecture. And we will prepare the primary website and a draft report so that the TAC, the policy board, and the stakeholders can review those. And based on those review, we will finalize our work by November, so I can again present those updates in front of the TAC and the policy board in the December meeting. So when we are going through this process, what is the expectations from both sides? So obviously, as we have already started the initial correspondence over email for participating in this update process. The stakeholders will also being invited to attend those small group meetings, and those will be mostly individual meetings. So when I say small groups, it can be, let's say for the traffic group, it can be the City of Bismarck engineers, the traffic engineers, City of Mandan engineers, and the county, the Burleigh County, the Morton County engineers. So those engineers can be comprised as a small group to discuss what are the needs of these for this area. And mostly we will be requesting information on what kind of support they need to make those ITS equipment work. And based on if those ITS equipment work perfectly, what the users can be expected to have, what responsibilities those stakeholders will be performing, and based on that, we'll identify different service packages. And those changes we will be providing in forms of regular updates on inventory, on the functional requirements, and on the user needs in those three areas. If some group cannot meet in person, we are planning to provide a survey this time, and those survey questionnaires will be based on the information that we need to make these update process working. So what we are expecting from them is pretty much the feedback, a timely update, as well as feedback on the changes that we have already made on different areas. So that was what we have for as a plan for our regional architecture update process. Now I will open it up for any questions from you.
Thank you, Sherry Jad. That was a really nice overview of the project itself and a good explanation of what ITS does for our region. Are there any questions from the group? Gabe?
Thank you. Maybe a couple of questions here. First, the organization of the small groups. There's definitely value in having all the engineers together. There's also value in having all the agency folks together. I'm just trying to think of the cold call or the conversation that you'll have with our fire department when they have no idea what we're talking about. I think there might be a value in having liaison or connection through the project based on the municipality or the county or the agency that you're talking to as well. So I guess, I know it's a regional type component, but I probably have to deal with or coordinate with my IT or my fire department or my police department more than I need to coordinate with Mandan, for instance. So I think I put some value in just thinking about how that your small groups discussions go, just as a point of order component. My biggest challenge, I think, with this project is just the security component. It's great to have a workflow of how these devices are supposed to connect to each other and how these devices are supposed to, get information back. But it has been a challenge with just requirements at the state level and federal level on cybersecurity, that is more important than me getting information from Mandan or me sharing information from Mandan, or for that matter, sharing information with the state, DOT. It's more important, I guess, what we're getting from our IT staff and from the state's IT staff is to close those ports, make sure the connection is solid, and not share it unnecessarily. So that's a component. I don't know how you'll address this in here, but just the cybersecurity component of this entire project is probably the biggest thing. It's okay if these systems all just talk within themselves, but when we try to share that information out with us or with another user or stakeholder, that's where the challenge becomes very prominent. So I encourage, probably more so than having any engineers in the room, is those IT staff that know those rules and know the guidelines. And Fed Highway might have a certain perspective of how this should go, but if we can't get that device to talk to another device without violating some other federal requirement, that's important to discuss that up front. So I guess that's probably my biggest concern or question. My last component of it, maybe just a discussion point, is some of our information is like a third-party hosted technology. So it might not be that we talk to the device directly, but it might be that that device shares its information into the cloud through a centralized system of some sort, and we connect through the cloud to that same system. I don't know if, as we've been making these regional updates to our architecture, or updates to our regional architecture, if we've incorporated that concept, that it's not so much that device talking to me, it's that device going through another something, and then we're just connecting to that cloud-based service, and that's where we're doing more and more of that. So that's maybe my question, is how does that recognized in our architecture, that it might not be coming back to our server in our room, it's going to some cloud-based thing, and we're just connecting to that remotely. So those are my comments. Look forward to the project, not looking for necessarily any responses, but those are the things that I just want to make sure are addressed as early as possible.
Thanks, Gabe, for your comments. I know that we've already tried to address one of those. You had mentioned the cybersecurity portion of it, and I think on our last update, we failed to probably have a real inclusive list of IT personnel, including from state DOT. And so we've tried to expand our stakeholders list in that regard a little bit this time around. Hopefully, like I said, it'll be a little bit more inclusive, and we'll get the right parties at the table for those conversations. Also, we'll kind of take under advisement. I understand your comment regarding coordinating groups by municipality, and that makes a lot of sense, rather than just, say, emergency services across the board. So maybe we can do a little bit of mixing and matching in that regard to get those good conversations going. But Sherry Judge, did you have any comments at all that you wanted to provide? Or
So one of the areas, thank you so much for those comments, Gabe. One of the thing that you mentioned is about the small groups. As Ripple mentioned, we will definitely do that mix and match for when we are coordinating those small group meetings. And Based on my experience on working with 3 different MPOs in the region, I figured out it's always better to have more of a one-on-one communication when it comes into a small, let's say in the county level. I don't want to say small, but when your scope is a little bit limited in terms of using any ITS related components, it is better to have more of one-on-one discussion, because then you understand what are the limitations that they go through, and you can easily identify them, within the architecture. However, when it comes into the big city, or let's say for the city of Bismarck, which has a much larger network than the county level, for those areas, the inclusion of IT is very, very important. So I definitely hear that one, and we will try to make prepare the stakeholders list in a way, and so that we can include those IT people, as well as we will have some separate meetings with them to identify whether what kind of communication standards that has been placed. Now, you have to understand one thing, that the regional architecture cannot guide you to a solution. That, okay, you have this data in the cloud, and you probably some of the stakeholders do not have access to those, and trying to get access to it, but they failed. Now, the architecture may not give you the solution to it, like how you will get it, but it will show you the path that for these connection you have maintained, or according to the architecture, you have maintained these communication standards. Now, to get into those communication standards, it will fall into each agency's responsibility, that you have to make arrangement to get those communication standards within your system, so that your system can talk to the others, or where you want to get connected. Because as Gabe mentioned, everyone wants to keep their system safe. They want to keep that secure, and they don't want to take those information unnecessarily out everywhere. So for that, the architecture will definitely help us to identify those communication standards, and that would be one of my priority, to identify those standards in the best possible way, so that our technical folks can identify them, and or at least present them in front of the IT people.
All right, well, thank you, Sherajad, for the rest of the explanation, and Gabe has some additional
Yep,
comments?
just a follow-up. So I think that's great, Sherrod, that you're approaching it in that way, and I don't expect that this plan will define how all these agencies will get together, but it is good that will be the highest priority, because if it all hinges on that connectivity, if we don't have a path that we can actually achieve that connectivity, well, the plan isn't very useful at that point in time. So making sure that that's paramount is kind of my priority. So appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Andrew?
Chair, just for the record, we do have a new IT position at the city of Mandan, and I have made the director, Carrie Mitchell, aware of this project in case there are needs for her to participate.
Okay.
Just as a general question, as a non-technical person, is the outcome of this project likely more related to like the world of software and software updates, or will there be recommendations for infrastructure, hardware needs in the region as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit of both. So it can be very, very basic, as far as even the telephone operating systems that you're using within your municipal departments, or it can be connected vehicle based and smart infrastructure. So, I mean, it runs the whole gamut. There's a myriad of applications, and that's why it's important to get everybody at the table to kind of identify what services you're providing and what type of technology you need to provide those in the best way.
As a follow-up to that, I asked because I recall there being maybe some shortfalls that prevented ITS from being deployed in certain locations. So identifying what might be necessary to do that, I think, would be in our best interest, I'm going to move this. And my kind of second part of that question is also two-part. How does the MPO set its goals for this topic? What does that look? Does it come from planning, or does it come from steering committees in terms of where we want to go in an ITS world? And I guess we can start with that.
Okay. Well, I can let Sherry Judd answer this a little bit too, because he's had experience with other MPOs, but just based on the Bismarck-Mandan MPO, we look to our stakeholders to help us identify and provide those goals and objectives as we're moving through this update. Again, based on the services that they provide and how they feel technology is going to best assist them with providing them in the safest and most efficient manner. So.
Okay. That's
If I want to, I want to take a little bit time over here, if I am allowed. First of all, thank you so much for bringing that identification of those expectations or identification of how we can improve. And this is really nice to see that we have this kind of progressive thinking. So this is this specific approach of identifying or suggesting some guidelines, or maybe recommending that you have in your municipal areas, you have this existing system which can be improved into maybe to the next stage, or maybe to a higher stage, and it will serve a bigger crowd in that way. That is one of the primary goals we had when we were updating the Fargo 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 and Moorhead MetroCog, as well as the Grand Forks is Grand Forks MPO. And this is as a part of the outcome of this process, you will see those guidelines which we will propose. And when we propose it, it doesn't mean that you have to follow everything. There is a list of proposal. It's because it's based on what we have seen in these regions, and based on those observation and our experience with other MPOs, as well as the whole state level architecture improvements. What are the new updates that we want to see in these areas? So that will definitely be one of the outcome of this project. Now, if I come into the how it connect with the planning goals and objectives, primarily we look into the long-term planning documents that, like last year, we had Arrive 2045, and I'm sure there is a new update on that one, which we will follow. And the architecture itself identifies the certain goals and objectives that is within the within those long-term planning documents, and to correlate with the services that is already in there, or maybe what we'll be identifying that okay, we are proposing, or maybe Bismarck-Mandan is proposing these services coming in, or a new service of electric vehicle charging stations for within the next 2 years or 3 years, which will be identified as a future service, and those will be connected with the existing goals and objectives of your planning document. If that answers your question.
That does, thank you. And I guess as a final follow-up, maybe more for the group, but how do we, as cities working on projects, make sure that this is looked at when, say, for like our downtown streets project, making sure that we're considering ITS components necessary for it, referencing the...
So basically, you're looking for an implementation strategy as to how to use the update. Any suggestions on that, Sherry Jad?
So what you can do is, and you don't even have to wait for the update. You can look into the current architecture, and as a, maybe instead of sharing the screen, if you allow me to stop my, let me get back and stop share and give you a little bit bigger overview on the existing architecture. That might help. So the Bismarck-Mandan updated here. Let me share my screen one more time. I hope you can see my screen where we have the Bismarck-Mandan regional ITS architecture.
Yes, we can.
So here, if you can see that here is this version 4 that we have updated last time. And if you go into the website, you can see the existing service packages over here. And let's say we are talking about the improvement of, let's do the traffic signal control. So under the traffic signal control, we have two different service package instances. So if you want to see into the only the Bismarck side of it, you can go into that and look into the current diagram. Now, what does this current diagram tells us is what are the information flow that is happening between those different Bismarck traffic operations center field devices to their center, to the driver, to the pedestrian, to everyone that has been identified last time. Now, how do we use this information? It depends on what kind of project you are proposing. If you are trying to make an update, or if you are trying to install a new traffic signal control, or maybe there is a broken traffic signal control which you need to replace, you need to look into this information flow that which will tell you whether all these information are going to be stay there if you come with a new system, or if you are when you're installing your new traffic signal. Now, with that, when it comes into the communication standards, which is very important for the cybersecurity part of it, there are certain standards that you can identify which connect with the specific services of that traffic signal control. So that's kind of the way how the technical people will be looking into the implementation. And as part of this implementation process, this is something I do on my side of this update, where I update each of the projects that come, like as I mentioned, that connection to the fiber optics with the for the 7th and 9th Avenue on Bismarck. So when that project came to me for the system engineering check, I create another item called a project architecture, which will identify what are the services that will be used for this project, what would be the functional requirements for that, and what are the communication standards for that. It's very simple. It doesn't look as big as the regional architecture, but it looks into a certain items. However, I cannot update it without the consent of the policy board or the TAC. So that's why it has never been included into these one. And this is to be frank, these Bismarck-Mandan one, the last update I was a part of it for a partial time, and since that time wasn't enough for me to come up or complete all those project architecture, I couldn't include it. However, for the Grand Forks one or the Bismarck-Mandan one, we obviously worked on those project architectures separately, and they keep them as separate projects, which they can, if they want, they can have access to it and look into the implementation of those projects. I hope that answers your question.
All right. Yes, Andrew indicated that answered his question. Thank you, Sherry Jad. Anything else right now? All right. Well, thank you, Sherry Jad, for being on with us today and answering all our questions, and we look forward to getting this project kicked off. We'll move on to item number 4. It's the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program Administrative Modification. Stephen is he said he was going to be kind enough to share his screen for me. So any of you who are following along on your own screen, this Exhibit C begins on page 19 in the packet. Page 19 and 20 is the administrative modification number 1 itself. It just details the need for the modification and what the funds transfer is. Just to recall that according to the Bismarck-Mandan MPO's UPWP and also public participation plan, we are allowed to move funding between or within tasks up to an amount of 10% of the total cumulative yearly amount without having to actually bring forward a formal amendment for North Dakota DOT or Federal Highway or Fed Transit Administration approval. So we found that it was necessary to move some funding for a study that was intended to start in 2024. That would be the safety policy study, but it did not get off the ground until 2025. We didn't have a contract until January. So the funds that were allocated for that in 2024 were $41,205. We needed to move that into a budget for 2025. And since we don't have a biennial budget, we can't just simply roll those funds over. So we had to figure out where in our 2025 budget we had room to kind of manipulate those dollars. And we saw that we had another project, which was the Fringe Area Road Master Plan light update that was intended to start in January and be completed the same year, which has not yet got underway. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to push the Fringe Area Road Master Plan out to about an August beginning date. And so that will provide us about actually we're taking $41,205 out of the $80,000 budgeted for that. And we're going to apply it to the safety policy study in the year 2025. And this just details how those funds are being shifted from one study to another within the same task of 102. It does state that this became effective on February 5th. I did contact the jurisdictions that were involved because it does impact their local match. City of Mandan, City of Bismarck were impacted favorably because they actually have to provide a little bit less match in 2025 now. However, Burleigh County, Morton County, and also the City of Lincoln had an increase to their local match amounts. And if you take a look on the budget worksheet on page 21, basically this is all kind of summarized in about the first 7 lines of that budget worksheet. It tells us that there is an administrative modification number 1 in February of 2025. It's a transfer of funds within task 102. As we go across in that first yellow highlighted row, it shows that Bismarck's local match was actually decreased by $1,442. Mandan's was decreased by $206. Burleigh County, on the other hand, showed an increase of $1,236, Morton County of $206, and Lincoln an increase of $206 to their local match. Again, in speaking with Burleigh, Morton, and Lincoln, Burleigh County noted that they can just simply absorb that local match. They have room within their budget. The City of Lincoln had no issues with it. The mayor will bring it to the city council for their approval. I didn't hear any objections to date from Morton County. And then down on the darker purple line, that would be line number 7 on this budget worksheet. It says amended budget. So it does show the totals of the administrative modification, and it carries it across through all of the jurisdictions. Now, if you wanted to learn exactly how that affects the tasks, you can go further down and look at the other yellow highlighted rows within this budget worksheet. They've been highlighted just so it's easy for you to find, but they will not be highlighted in the actual amended budget worksheet within the UPWP. It's just for display purposes. But yeah, when you go down under Task 102, you can see exactly which studies were impacted and to what degree, whether there was an increase or decrease. And also, there's an indication of whether or not any of the funds use Complete Streets or any of the activities use Complete Streets funds. In this case, yes, they do. So you can go down all the way to the bottom under the Task 104, which is just a tracking mechanism within the UPWP so that we don't double dip on our Complete Streets tracking or request for reimbursement. And this does show that there was an additional 49 or 4491 in Complete Streets funding that will be allocated due to the shifting of the safety policy study completely being carried out in 2025. So hopefully the budget worksheet is easy to understand. Again, it doesn't seem that I've gotten any objections considering the changes to the local match. And according to the administrative modification, this became effective February 5th. Are there any questions?
Kim, I just had one. Do you have an idea when you're planning to delay? I know you got an August start, but you're not planning to finish the FARMP update, Fringe Area Road Master Plan update in this year. You're planning to carry it over a little bit into the next year?
Yes, thanks, Will, correct. In fact, we'll be working on our budget development soon. Last year, the executive director brought an annual budget into play for the Bismarck-Mandan MPO. I'll be reversing that, and we'll be pursuing a biennial budget for 26 and 27. And so, yes, as part of that budget development for 2026, the second half of the Fringe Area Road Master Plan update will occur in 2026.
Okay. Same amount of months roughly, just?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll move on to item number 5. That is the 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program Administrative Modifications with Stephen Larson.
Thank you, Chair. I just shared my screen with everyone. Very quick, we processed 3 administrative modifications to the 25 through 28 Transportation Improvement Program this month. The first of these changes is moving a shared use trail project on Old Road Trail in Mandan from its current place in fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. The second modification is moving a PCC paving project on I-94, again from fiscal year 24 to 25. And finally, the third modification moves a collection of 6 projects in our tip for structure paint on various bridges along I-94. These are being moved out of 25 into fiscal year 2026 for the funding. Are there any questions on any of these?
Gabe?
Regarding the second one that you had there, the DOT interstate reconstruction from exit 161 east to Minokan, it says it's tied to project 26.6.06. Do you know by chance what project that
It's
is?
the same project, but I believe one is eastbound and one is westbound, if I'm not mistaken.
And maybe my follow-up to that is I thought that they did award this project for construction in 2025. So maybe my question is, how is it tied to another project if one's happening in 25 and one's happening in 26? I thought, and maybe I'm fuzzy on what they awarded. Maybe it was one big package that had them all together, but I guess that's maybe my general question of what to expect this summer. Is it both? Is it a couple summers worth? What does that all entail?
So looking into this, I believe they were bid as one, but they have been moved from 2025 to 2026 as one. So the projects haven't occurred and will occur in 2026. If that makes sense.
Will, as a follow-up, both of those, the 25.6.09?
I think we had them as one project on our STIP. I can look real quick, but let me look here.
I'm pretty sure that they were shown as two
Two separate. Okay.
separate. I assumed it was because of the large dollar amounts associated with the projects. And I was basing this on my review of the draft of the essentially the final step, but so it is possible that some of these movements will. I mean, as usual, these adjustments are somewhat flexible as far as what funding years actually ends up being fit in for the project.
Quickly, fast as I can.
And I'm trying to find the plans that I thought were awarded this fall to see what all did that entail here.
You had the ECN number on that amendment, right?
22957. Yes.
I have Bismarck. We do have two projects. So one is in 2025, and then the other project number.
I think it's 958, but I could be wrong.
Are we looking at your project number 25.609 for the new number, or are we looking at the next one?
So the 25609, that's the one that's being moved, but then he would also be asking about 26606.
What do you think, dude?
I found that it was awarded the subject project, the your PCN 22957 was awarded on November 15th, or excuse me, it was at least opened on November 15th, 2024, and that was just for the eastbound lanes only, 9.7 miles of interstate reconstruction. So my guess is that it's supposed to be two separate projects, and maybe I just take exception to the concept of saying tied to something. I don't know what
Related
that
to?
means. I don't think it's a tied project. I guess when I hear tied project, it's multiple plan sets, one contractor. I don't believe that's the case. It looks like that other project has not been let.
I really agree with that.
I can adjust the description. It's just a
Okay.
just a term I was using, and I can certainly change it if it's confusing.
Yeah, I would recommend that change, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Will do.
All right. Any other comments regarding the administrative modifications to the tip? Well, if not, is there any other business?
Chair Ripple, just wanted to mention I've been working with Mandan Mayor Freilich on the potential identification of a freight representative for the TAC.
Okay.
And I'll work with you on maybe explaining what this is and how they become a part of it, but just a heads up on that.
Okay. We'd be very excited to fill our freight representative position here on the TAC. I think that was vacated about 2.5 years ago.
A little bit longer than that.
Was it longer than 2.5?
Seems like COVID, and then we stopped.
Well, Chuck didn't make it official. I guess,
Exactly.
Yes, it was. It was kind of that way. He was trying to kind of withdraw for a while, but we wouldn't let him quit. And, it's been a long time. So we've been soliciting for a freight industry representative, and in fact, we have feelers out through the North Dakota Motor Carriers Association, but we just haven't been getting any bites. So if you guys you have a line on a likely candidate, by all means, we can have conversations if they have any questions, and be happy to engage in those. So, thank you, appreciate it.
Great.
Any
Kim, I
other
have one
business?
too.
Will?
Yeah, I just wanted to put everyone on notice that and this works for TAC members, policy board members, also consultants. That the North Dakota Transportation Conference is open for registration. That'll be March 5th here at the Bismarck Event Center. So I encourage anyone and everyone who's interested to attend. It's usually a pretty good conference. And I think the early bird rate, it says till the beginning of February, but when I looked this morning, the early bird rate was still active. So.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. Is that March 5th and 6th?
4th and 5th.
4th and 5th, sorry. Thank you. All right, anything else? Gabe?
I'll follow up to Will's, that I heard there's a really good presentation on planning pop-ups and then how it turns into projects that maybe the city of Bismarck's going to be presenting at that conference. So just saying, if you go, check us out.
All right,
I always encourage those.
good to know. Any other business? Okay, actually, I have a couple of items. Big Sky Rail is hosting their first government partner program webinar for us on February 27th. That will begin at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. I have notified jurisdictional representatives. I'm encouraging them to get the word out to whomever they feel might be interested in attending or at least registering, because even if you're just a wee bit interested in the webinar but can't attend, just by registering, then you'll get that link later so that you can watch it at your own convenience. So that's always a good thing to know. Just a little spoiler alert, we have had questions that have been submitted by some of our jurisdictions, some of our partners here. I've shared those with Big Sky Rail, and they will be including some of those and a dedicated time to answer them during the webinar. Also, they'll be kind of showcasing some initiatives that have been undertaken by the city of Jamestown, North Dakota, and also some initiatives in Missoula, Montana, which I believe may involve transit. So kind of some cool things coming down the pipe there. Also, just an FYI, the Bismarck-Mandan MPO, on behalf of its jurisdictions, did receive from the League of American Bicyclists a bronze designation as a bicycle-friendly city. So we do have that designation now for another 4 years. And also, just as a final note, the Bismarck-Mandan MPO is actively soliciting for applications to fill the transportation planner position. We do have a posting in various places, but one easy place to find it is on bismarck.nd.gov, job openings, and that will remain open until March 2nd. So there is just about 2 weeks for folks to apply. If you know of any qualified or interested candidates, go ahead and send them either our way or to the website. And anything else that anybody might have? Well, with that, I'll send you on your merry way out into the cold. Hopefully Andrew can get his car warmed back up, because I think they've probably cooled off by now. But thanks for coming, everybody. Meeting adjourned.